I brought in 1.3 million Kenya shillings worth of leads for a business in Nairobi, and I'm about to show you how. So let's talk about getting leads, right? Any person who's been in business knows that getting leads is one of the hardest parts of starting out, getting those first people in. But then even for experienced people in business, businesses that have been in an industry for a certain amount of time, one of the things they're always fighting for is to get more leads than their competitors, to get more leads than they did last month, last year, etc. However, even when you cross that hurdle, then you encounter the obstacle of interacting with these leads. Suddenly you have a boatload of leads coming in, a boatload of people reaching you, but you don't have enough staff, right, to interact with them, to answer questions, to help with inquiries, etc. And then once you cross that hurdle, you then also realize that you have to qualify the leads, right? Not everyone who reaches out to you is the perfect person. And it's a pain for many businesses, especially in East Africa, because some of them struggle with one of these issues, others struggle with two, others are literally sinking, right? They have all three of these issues on board, and it's a huge problem. But today I'm going to show you how I used AI to solve this problem, because it's a problem that I face myself when I look for leads for my AI agency. So in this video, you will see the problem that I was trying to solve. Number one, you'll see the problem I was trying to solve, and then you'll see the solution that I built for the business that solved their problem. And then you'll also see the process of building, testing, deploying it, and how I trained the AI chatbot, is what it is, live while it was interacting with people and using those conversations to train it up. So let's get straight into this. So this is Next Gen Sports Academy. They are a children's sports academy in Nairobi, Kenya, and they offer football, swimming, basketball, rugby, and I think athletics. So basically, to explain the situation, you can go check them out on your own, nextgenkenya.com. But to explain the situation, they were running Facebook ads, Meta ads now, to their WhatsApp account, right? So they would have a really good ad, attracts a lot of people, spend quite a bit, and these people would then be directed to chat with them on a WhatsApp account. However, the issue started when it came to interacting with these people. So you can imagine they were running a really good ad, a couple of really good ads in fact, to their WhatsApp account. So they were getting a lot of people clicking on these things, a lot of people sending messages just to be responded to 24, 48 hours later. And even when they responded to, it was probably with a template. And this was just because the person who was in charge of keeping this interaction solid was extremely tied up. So they were managing the academy, they were managing clients at the academy, managing people who were trying to enroll, managing the financials, as well as having to interact with all these new leads coming in each and every single day. So that was like around 30 people every single day. So you can imagine how tiring, how stressful, and how tedious the whole process was. So we decided to bring an AI chatbot into the mix. To be specific, what we were looking to do with the chatbot was, number one, answer any questions that clients had reaching out. Number two, we wanted the chatbot to be able to guide users to take an action, which was to fill out a form, because that's the way that clients would be able to progress down the pipeline, right? So they would land in the WhatsApp account, and then they would be prompted to fill a form to sign up their child for a free trial at the academy, at which point they would then sign up and then actually visit the academy and hopefully become a client from that stage onwards. So basically, we were looking to build something that could address user inquiries, but then also answer questions with information that's actually correct and concise. Because with a sports academy, the prices for certain memberships would be changing depending on seasons, depending on sports, depending on location, etc. So we'd have to make sure that the bot knows all of this, that it gives users the correct information, and we don't have like parents showing up to the academy and then getting extremely angry because the bot told them something that's not actually true or is no longer true. So that's basically what we were looking to do, and we did manage to get it done. And over the past 4 months, we've brought in 1.3 million Kenya shillings worth of leads through the bot. That's in combination with the ads and the bot. So obviously bots don't bring in leads themselves, right? Their job is just to interact with people, qualify them, answer questions, and then push them down the sales pipeline. But over the past 4 months, we've brought in that many leads, and I'll walk you through all of it right now. So, like I mentioned, they were running meta ads to a WhatsApp account, and my agency Ivy Flow was previously in marketing, so we were doing marketing for clients in Uganda and Kenya, and that's how I initially started working with NextGen. So we were working under a marketing agreement where I would manage their Facebook ads and make creative, make content as well, and then ensure that we've gotten all the targeting right. We're targeting the right people, reaching the right people, and then all the people would be directed to the WhatsApp account, where then the process would be entirely in the hands of the academy now, right? Because someone would be managing the account. However, like I said, there was a huge issue with actually interacting with people. So I decided to venture out and think, so how can I solve this problem? And I thought, and then I came across this AI chatbot kind of thing. And first I thought it was like only integratable to websites. However, when you look deep into it, you find that you can integrate it to other platforms. Even if the integration isn't straightforward, you can build things like APIs and other more complex connections that you can use to basically integrate AI into any software, right? So I started playing around with this thing, not officially, and ended up building a mock chatbot essentially. And the way it works before is that obviously we had people coming in from meta ads, and there would be about 30 per day, and then these people would be directed to their WhatsApp account, where they would then interact with the actual business. So WhatsApp. And then that process is fairly straightforward. A user sees an ad, and if the ad is good, they will click. However, getting them to the next stage, which is filling free trial form, that was the next step that needed to be taken. And it was perhaps the hardest, because from WhatsApp to get someone to click an external link to fill out a form is considerably difficult, right? So we needed to be able to build their trust before we could get that to happen, and that can only happen through basically us, the academy, showing that we have the right facilities, we can answer their questions, and what the academy is the kind of place that they would want to take their child. So that's essentially the role that the chatbot needed to do. So when you build a chatbot, there's two main ways you can do it. Number one, you can have a goal-driven chatbot, or you can have a data-driven chatbot. Now, a data-driven bot is a bot that just answers questions, right? So you can think of like ChatGPT, for example. You ask it, write this for me, do this for me, and it just does that, and it doesn't do anything else. It's not supposed to make you ask it more questions or anything, or it's not supposed to make you fulfill a certain task or get something done. It's just supposed to answer your questions, provide the help, and then it's done. But a goal-driven chatbot, its job is to push users to accomplish a certain action. This is the goal. So for example, you can think of this as maybe for example, a bot that's supposed to assist in e-commerce will probably push users to make a purchase. And in their case, in NextGen's case, they needed a bot that could do both, a hybrid essentially, that could answer questions and be data-driven for when users needed it to be, but then also that could push users to fill out the form to come in for a free trial, essentially acting as a virtual salesperson, if you'd like to call it that. However, it would also need to qualify people, because a huge problem we were having is people who are not the right type would reach out. So you'd have people who are like 22 reaching out thinking it's a football club, when really it's a sports academy for children between the ages of 4 to 17. And so we needed to make sure that the bot could also detect all of this and kind of qualify all these users to make sure that it only sends the form to those who fit the criteria. So that's essentially how I planned it out, and then I'll go in and show you the construction right now. So initially, this was the structure, very simply laid out. Obviously, it wasn't this simple within the actual system, but this was the structure that the bot would follow, right? So a user would come in and then it would process their demands to basically understand what they want. So are they asking a question? Have they made a statement about their child? Are they ready to sign up immediately, etc.? Then from there it would move on to qualify or disqualify the user, and also answer any questions that they might have asked coming in. And then depending on if the user was qualified, it would send them a form. But throughout this entire process, wherever the user is, it needs to be able to answer questions, right? So whether the user is here, whether the user is just coming, whether the user is asking a question after it has sent a form, it needs to be able to answer the question. So that's now the data-driven component. However, the actual flow of getting users to asking questions to qualify the user, such as how old is your child and what sports does your child like, those are questions that it would also ask to qualify the user before sending the form. So that should be at this stage. However, one of the key learnings for me personally for this entire project is that when users come in from ads, most of the time they want things quick and fast. So they usually do not want to be asked too many questions. How long has your child been playing sports? What's your child's favorite sports? How often do they play a week? Usually they want to be the one to control the conversation, to ask the relevant questions, and then to receive the form or the next step, or to be pushed towards the next stage in the sales process as soon as possible. And that's something that I had to play around with, because the initial bot was quite lengthy, I would say, in the conversation between the user making contact and the user receiving the form. But as soon as that conversation was shortened, we began to see a reduced churn of people that go through the bot. So more people who interacted with the bot would fill the form, because the form would come in way sooner, and then any other questions could be asked after the form has been sent. So after the form has been sent, then users could continue to ask questions about the academy, to prepare for their free trial, to ask things like what should I bring, etc., etc. But I think another great addition to the system would be a way to connect the form, because it was a Google form, to connect it to the actual bot, so that when the form is filled, the user is able to receive a message again that the form has been filled, so that it kind of creates a whole ecosystem and the user sees that it's all interconnected. However, once a form was submitted, it would then reach the actual salesperson now at the academy, who all they would have to do now is call up the person, confirm the trial, and just like that, they'll have saved themselves more than 2 hours of interacting with leads per day, right? So you can imagine how much time it saved them, especially during busy seasons such as Christmas, such as holidays, when the children are home, and at such points they would be getting significant amounts of leads, especially when their ads were doing really, really well. So let's talk about the actual process of building all of this. The first thing that we did is I had to look at the actual conversations that were being had. So I went into their WhatsApp account. I was given access to their WhatsApp account, and as a spectator, I would just observe the kind of messages, the kind of questions, the kind of conversations that users would initiate with the holder of the WhatsApp account. And then using those, I was able to kind of develop a frame of how the bot should interact with users, and how I can build it and structure it so that it kind of mimics a system that was there before. Because the system that was there before was working, but it was just overwhelmed, right? So the previous method of interaction with people was working. It was just that there was too many people and too little time for the salesperson in charge. So that was the plan, essentially. So once the whole kind of map was drawn out, then I began building it on a platform called BotPress. You can go check it out yourself. Really, really cool bot development platform. You can integrate it with many different softwares, channels, and a whole bunch of other stuff you can do. Very simple as well if you're a beginner. However, if you want to do the more complex stuff, you do need to understand AI. You need to have a good understanding of AI, let's put it that way. And then you also need to have a decent understanding of JavaScript and coding, just so that you can kind of do the more repetitive tasks with code instead, and save yourself a bit of money spent. Because the more times that you call AI when you have a bot, the more times that your bot needs to call AI, any kind of LLM, to generate a response to a user, the more money you spend. So each response costs tokens, and eventually you basically surpass a certain amount of free tokens that the platform gives you. So you're always trying to do only the tasks that absolutely require AI with AI. All those other tasks that are tedious, you want to use code to do them. So we went ahead and built it, and then began testing and playing around with it. However, what I found is that when you build a chatbot for any kind of interaction with customer, I would say the best test that you can put it through is to make it live. So obviously you want to test it for any bugs, any problems with its actual function, but then you'll find that most of the issues with the bot are not going to be the actual, the function that it has. It's just going to be specific behaviors that it's doing correct, it's doing the behavior right, but the behavior is just not aligned to the situation or to the conversation. So the best way to learn these things is obviously just getting the bot live, and so that's what you were able to do. We got the bot live, and then I began the process of training it while it's live. So essentially I would go in a couple of times a week and look at the conversations it's having, list all of the bugs that are appearing during conversations. By bugs I mean any kind of thing that went wrong during the conversation. So for example, if the bot misunderstood a user, if the bot didn't respond with the correct information from the knowledge base, any kind of issue, I would then collect that, basically write them all down, and then go in and fix all those issues one by one, so that the bot is basically learning and training in a situation, in an environment that's perfectly suited to its use case, essentially. And so with that, it grew really, really well. It started to get, at first it was handling conversations well, but it would have occasional bugs, occasional conversations that slipped through and are poorly handled, leading to the loss of maybe a lead or 2 or 3 in a day. However, over time we began to smoothen that whole process out, so that it was able to handle over 95% of leads comfortably. And you can go in and look at the conversations and see that the conversations were perfect. It understood the user, understood their demands, responded accordingly, and managed to get them to actually fill out a form. So that's another really good thing of testing things live, right? You get feedback immediately. The feedback loop is direct, so you can think of it as soon as you make a change, you get to see if the change has worked or if it has failed. And that's a really good method of developing anything, in my opinion, because it just saves you all this time back and forth waiting to deploy, and then so it's just a really good way to test and develop stuff. In terms of time spent developing all of this, it took quite, I would say, about a month. However, it wasn't of constant development. Obviously there's other projects that I work on personally, but that's just the duration of time that it took to get it fully up and running. However, you can get this running, I can get stuff like this running much faster. It's just the learning curve of building a bot, as well as trying to match it perfectly to its use case, its situation. Just that entire process was a bit tedious, to say the least. But once it's up and running, the process of training it and improving it is so much quicker, like I've just explained, because of the direct feedback loop that you have with every single action that you take. But then of course, once you've built a bot, it's like a baby. You can't just leave it there. You have to take care of it, you have to continue to check up on it, you have to make sure that it's functioning the way it's supposed to function, because obviously there's many things that can go wrong, and then also people change, right? So the people that interact with the bot do evolve as well, in terms of the kind of messages they send, the kind of things they look for. For example, if it's holiday season, parents might ask a bit more about holiday programs, about training sessions during the week. But if the bot is interacting with a user who wants to enroll their child during the school term, to be coming in after school, they might be asking more about weekend sessions and stuff like that. So you see how the bot has to basically be trained and also be aware of the different times different seasons at which users will interact with it. So you'd need to also maintain the bot in that way, as well as of course check up on any bugs, because the more times that you debug the bot, the more reliable it becomes. So if previously the bot would fail on 4 out of 10 conversations, if you debug it for around 2-3 months, by the end of those 2-3 months, it suddenly fails on only like 0.5 out of 10 of those conversations that it has. So you can see how important it is to maintain and to keep your bot up to standard with both your business information, but then also just its general interaction with users. And then in terms of integrations, this bot was integrated to WhatsApp, like I mentioned, so people can chat with it, can converse with it over WhatsApp, which was the mainstream, but then it was also integrated to their website, so website visitors could also chat with it and make bookings to come in for a free trial, and these bookings would go directly to a Google sheet that was set up for them, with also a few analytics and automations to help out with the entire process as well. I won't go through the automations in this video, but I will go through them in another video, because I think they're really important to backing up the bot, because a bot is, sometimes these bots, they do really well once the user is just in the platform a lot. So when the user is interacting with the bot on WhatsApp, on the website, the bot does really well. But then when the users finish that interaction process, what now? We want to also make the rest of the sales process as smooth as possible and as easy on the team at NextGen. And so we wanted to basically automate a few tasks there as well, just to make things easy for them. So time to talk about the results. Here I am in their analysis document, the sheet in which all the people who fill out forms, basically all their information, data comes into here. Obviously, parts of the screen are blurred because it's sensitive customer information. However, if you look up here, you can see that the total leads that have come in are 188, and I did the calculations myself. By total leads, I mean total people that have filled out a form. But obviously, one person can fill out a form for multiple children, and doing the calculations, it amounts to over 270 children. Their lowest package goes for 5,000 Kenya shillings per month, so you can do the math yourself, and that's definitely over 1.3 million Kenya shillings worth of leads. I say worth of leads because obviously not all leads are closed. I wish that's how the world was, but life doesn't treat you that way, unfortunately. But in terms of the amount of total leads that came in, that was the total, and 1.3 million is what is their total value in terms of all the children that were enrolled. So basically that shows you that, and this was over a period of about 4 months, 5 months, but I would say, but the last one, for one of the months, the bot wasn't running because they weren't running ads during that period. So the bot has basically technically been live for just over 4 months, and this bot is valued at 100,000 Kenya shillings. So you can see that just within 4 months they had the potential to make 13 times the value of the bot. However, they got it 100% for free. So you can imagine that they didn't pay a single coin for this bot. It was built 100% for free, just because I wanted to get the experience, and also because I just thought, why not? So that's basically how things worked out, and things are looking really, really well for them now. And keep in mind that this was during the beginning of the year, and their best season in terms of getting people in is end of year, so from like October to December. So we've not even reached their prime. They haven't reached their prime yet with the bot, and it has already done so well for them. So that's just to prove to you how powerful AI is and how much you can do with AI through all of this. So I've walked you through the steps that were taken to build the bot, to test it, to get it done, and I've shown you the results. So your next question might be, what are the next steps? These are not actual next steps, but these are things that I think we could try out with a system like this. Number one, what I was really thinking of doing is integrating a voice agent after someone has submitted their details, because obviously someone at the academy has to call the phone number that was submitted and confirm the free trial date, appointment, number of children, and then also answer any more questions. However, if we could get that all done by a voice agent, then almost the entire sales process up to the point that a client shows up at the academy would be automated, because then that voice agent would also be able to do follow-ups and reminders for their academy dates. So for example, on the morning of their free trial, so for example, if a user scheduled a free trial for Friday afternoon at 4 p.m. on the morning of Friday, the voice agent would be able to contact them, confirm that they're coming, and then also update the sheet accordingly with all that data. And then another thing that we're thinking of automating perhaps is the financial process of getting users to actually pay. So a really good system that we could add is allow users to basically make payments, and then that payment information comes through to the bot, and then the bot just sends the user a confirmation message, as well as updates any financial sheets and data within the business that needs to be updated. So you can see how the bot can basically branch out into almost anything, especially with software such as make.com, which allows for automations and connections to so many different applications and softwares. So you can basically automate the entire sales process. But of course, I always advise that you take things step by step. You don't do the whole thing at once. Why? Because I think that, your sales process is something that's very delicate, and it's a very key system in your business. So we don't want you to do something that can break down your business overnight. So it's better you take things step by step, and you do things that you can easily reverse, compared to if you overhaul the entire system and then things go wrong, God forbid, and you end up capsizing the business, which we really do not want to happen. So that's basically the entire process from start to finish that I went through to bring in 1.3 million Kenya shillings worth of leads for NextGen, and hopefully they continue to grow with this system, and hopefully we can scale it out into something much bigger. I hope you enjoyed this one, and thank you for watching.